Indigenous Rights Radio, because knowledge is power.
The United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues is a high-level advisory body to the Economic and Social Council. The 21st session of the Permanent Forum has been scheduled for April 25th to May 6th, 2022 at the United Nations headquarters in New York with the special theme Indigenous Peoples, Business, Autonomy, and the Human Rights Principles of Due Diligence, including free, prior, and informed consent. In this interview, Cultural Survival's Avexnim Cojti spoke to Chris Honahnie from the International Indian Treaty Council about the advancement of the Hopi language.
Can you tell us your name, the nation you are from, and the organization that you represent here at the United Nations Permanent Forum?
My name is Chris Honahnie. My Hopi name is Solomokoiva, which means the nicely growing tobacco plant. I am Dine or Navajo in Hopi from northern Arizona, and I am the Food Sovereignty Program Co-Coordinator for the International Indian Treaty Council. Hopi, sinamo itam, nasang na yun itam halay kaya kangwa itam nahong vito tangwa itam halay itam soso yun namitan na niya kaya kang kae na kaya kang kahita na kusho ni aka-apple kaya kang pas mong hak nasang na yun yep mo mo'y sin mo'y ita hopitats kwa as ansay itam yep umami soso yun bay ang as nasang na yun koko.
Thank you so much. So the Youth Caucus, you're part of the Youth Caucus, and today you guys had a statement on the position of the Youth Caucus in regards to language. Can you please share a little bit what were the main recommendations from the Youth Caucus to the United Nations Permanent Forum?
The main recommendations from our intervention was to establish more kindergarten through 12th grade language immersion programs in indigenous communities and also non-indigenous communities where it's a little bit harder to find language speakers outside of the communities. And another outcome that recommendation that we requested was that the UNESCO, in its celebration of the International Decade of Indigenous Languages, take into consideration the importance of teaching indigenous youth their indigenous languages in order to provide the tools that are necessary to ensure the resiliency of food systems and also to be able to better adapt to climate change.
Excellent. From what you know in your community, how many speakers of your language still exist? Is it something that you think that it's disappearing, or is it well spoken? How many speakers are we talking about in your nation?
And so in my nation, and I speak mainly from my Hopi side of my family, there are, I would say, maybe 40% of the Hopi population are still fluent speakers, but I believe that number is going down, especially among youth. Primarily, it's our elders who speak the language fluently, and so really the numbers are really going down, and the population of the Hopi people is around 20,000 members or so. So the language isn't spoken as fluently anymore amongst people my age. I would say a vast majority of people my age, and I'm 27 years old, don't speak the Hopi language fluently. And as for the Navajo Nation, it's a little bit, it's much stronger there. I don't know the numbers exactly for the number of speakers on the Navajo Nation, but it's a lot higher than that of the Hopi Nation. Mainly because there's a large population of Navajo people compared to Hopi people. And so the language there is I believe is making a comeback within the Navajo Nation as well. I believe there are more and more language immersion programs coming out today that allow for people my age to be able to learn it outside of a traditional setting. So say a lot of these programs are starting to become available through virtual platforms such as Zoom, and there's even a Rosetta Stone program that teaches the Navajo language. You can't really say the same thing for the Hopi language. There are very, very limited opportunities to learn the Hopi language outside of the home or outside of public education where there are Hopi language courses. And so it's a lot more challenging to find ways to learn Hopi if you don't know a fluent speaker already. So that's I know it's a little bit more challenging for Hopi people to learn the language.
What type of programs are actually existing in your community that are funded by the state or the Ministry of Education?
Really, I don't think there are any programs that are funded by the state or by the only program that I can think of that I was a part of that was funded by a state program was through the Arizona Department of Education, which I believe funds many of the public schools in the state of Arizona. And in that program, there were Hopi language courses that were given to middle school aged youth and also high school aged youth. And so I took a couple courses in middle school and also high school to also aid in my education of learning Hopi. And I think that goes for the same thing for the Navajo Nation as well. There are Navajo language classes that are taught in public schools, but that's the only thing that I can really think of for now. But most of the programs that are around Hopi that are trying to teach the language are funded by nonprofit organizations and by people just going out there just to do it on their own without any sort of funding from any non-government or government funding.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And what would you say to those youth that are your age that would like to learn their language, but they don't?
Well, I would say to youth to learn the language, I would say just to take it step by step, take it day by day. Don't think that you're going to learn the language overnight, and don't think that you're not gonna make mistakes, because the mistakes that you make when you're trying to speak your language are gonna help you learn it a lot better, and it's gonna show you the areas where you need to improve, because all of us will make mistakes. It's inevitable that's what's going to happen. And so I would say take it day by day. You don't have to learn an entire dictionary overnight. You can learn maybe one word a day if that's the pace you want to go at. But there's also different ways of learning it besides just going one-on-one with a teacher. There are ways where you can actually do things outside, like such as farming and gardening and stuff like that, where you're able to kind of learn the names for certain plants and for certain animals and for certain environments and the weather and stuff like that. So it doesn't just have to be like in a classroom, it can be outside. And I would say that would be probably one of the best ways to learn the language, is to be outside with an elder or with somebody who speaks fluently, and to learn that way, because it's a lot more comfortable, and it's a lot easier to kind of see and learn visually, because learning the language, I believe, is also is easier if you're able to visibly see things and to identify things with certain words. And so I would just recommend to youth to be able to do that, to take that time, but don't really rush yourself. It takes time to learn the language, and to not be afraid of making mistakes, because all of us will eventually make mistakes in our lives.
Thank you so much. And to finish, can you say goodbye and just a greeting in your language just to close this interview?
Yes. Kwa na highlight the itasin moy yep sosayam mongwastotani bayantani kwa.
Thank you.
For more on the rights of Indigenous peoples, visit cs.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook and Twitter.